Thanks for having me. And I'm based down on the south coast of New South Wales, 2 hours south of Wollongong. And I'll be talking today about marine biomolecules for bioinks, and especially the links between ANFF and TRICEP, which is the joint project between the University of Wollongong and ANFF in providing a pilot manufacturing facility to try and make real some of the opportunities in 3D printing technologies and advancing that by using new materials such as those that come from the ocean. I myself am not a fabrication or materials expert. I'm a marine systems ecologist, and so I come from the water world, but I'm aware of so many of the molecules that are present in this water world, and I can see that all but a few of these are being used in the fabrication opportunities today. And so therefore, I'm just going to briefly overview the world of marine molecular ecology, how extensive that is, and how we can extend the opportunities in smart fabrication from that world. So it all sort of starts at the beginning of, the opportunity starts at the beginning of discovery of some of these molecules. Some of the people here today will be very familiar with molecules such as the one in the top left here, alginate. And indeed, that's how I started meeting people from ANFF and Professor Gordon Wallace, especially over cocktails, discussing what did he do, and he printed with alginate. And for me, that rings seaweed straight away. And so seaweed and alginate is but one of the molecules and types of species in the oceans that can be used already in the bioprinting in the bioprinting space. And so other molecules that exist from seaweeds include carrageenans. Here are 3 types of carrageenans that are currently used in some of the bioprinting world, but there's so many more. You can imagine over 4 billion years of evolution in the oceans that the number of molecules that we are presented with as an opportunity is very extensive. And here in this yellow space, I just want to feature one molecule that we're focusing on. It's the low-hanging fruit and the immediate thing that we can start to scale and commercialize, because we grow this molecule from the oceans in our unique Australian green seaweed. And this molecule, when we extract it from our green seaweed here on the south coast, mimics very closely dermatan sulfate and chondroitin sulfate, 2 of the key polysaccharides that exist in human tissue and are responsible for many of the connectivity functions, defense functions, and our seaweed extract mimics that very specifically. Of course, there are many other molecules from nature. Chitosan is also used with some of these seaweed molecules sometimes, and some of that can come from the oceans in the types of prawn shells and mushrooms. And so we're also interested in using molecules like that. But specifically, we're working with this molecule from the sea. And here's just some of the work that we've been doing with ANFF, which we would never have been able to do if this partnership hadn't evolved. Because we can grow this seaweed, extract and purify the molecule. And through ANFF, we've looked at things like, well, what are the properties of these types of seaweed? What would they be good for in materials that we fabricate? And here we can look at one of the opportunities that we've published is about the protection of collagen and blocking enzymes that would degrade collagen. So here you can see 3 bars that represent an electrocompacted collagen. The bar on the far right contains some of the olvan extract from our seaweed. When the collagen matrix is bombarded with enzymes that degrade it, you can see that the resistance is increased significantly in the collagen scaffold that contains the olvan molecule, and that is extended over a 4-hour period in this paper. Further, you can see we took this then, can we modify the molecule and create a bioink and print it? And you can see here on the right some scaffolds that we were able to print at TRICEP. Never as seaweed ecologists would we have gone into the space of printing 3D scaffolds like this without the opportunity of the skill sets and people at a facility like University of Wollongong and ANFF and TRICEP, let alone start printing them here. And here you can see the cells and the collagen matrices that are being laid down on these scaffolds because human skin cells recognize the molecules in the tissues there. And we've gone even further, and this was work that was wrapped up last year with a PhD student at the University of Wollongong, she developed actually a full thickness skin tissue here without our bioink and then with our bioink. And so some of the characteristics of the tissue that were evident after creation in a Petri dish, in this instance, were things like the directional integrity of the tissue. So things like this may be of benefit in the future if we're going to be able to look at creating full thickness skin tissue again that retains a kind of a structure and function that is more similar to original skin than the more jumbled kind of skin structures that result today in some of the fantastic but as yet not perfect wound healing completions. And so we're undertaking some of this work then in further collaboration from TRICEP with clinicians like Fiona Wood in Western Australia. And we're very excited to see how far we can take this molecule from the sea through the fabrications with ANFF and into the clinical setting to look at healing wounds. This was published recently. Be careful what you wish for, because I was actually scalped and now realize the value of this type of wound healing technology myself. So that wraps up briefly, I think, what our excitement is at being able to work with researchers at the University of Wollongong and ANFF, and in collaboration with a facility to scale the opportunity, make it real. It's not just going to be in publications anymore. We're actually going to be able to apply this to people in the near future, and taking everything that we know from the oceans and our farms through diverse products, and in the end, the biotech and smart materials that we can create with this partnership. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Pia. Thank you very much. That was absolutely fascinating. We don't have any questions, so I'm going to ask one. Yes. I guess I'm kind of really intrigued. I don't know whether it's the journals I'm reading or the news articles that are coming across my desk, but seaweed is really, and kelp and a range of other like-minded plants and other algal people, things, are having quite a moment at the moment, whether or not it's assisting cows to stop burping or wounds treatment like we're talking about now. Why do you think that's the case?
Well, seaweed is the foundation of life, I have to say. I mean, if you just think about it, some of the seaweed we're working with, for example, it's the age of when these molecules evolved, go to the first multicellular forms of life on the planet. Indeed, they think that multicellular organisms, the first ones were seaweed. And the key to that is creating the connective tissue between these cells. And that's indeed what we're extracting here, is inks that's the connective tissue that can create more tissues. And so it's such an obvious thing when you're working on the beaches that no one pays attention to it. But we really haven't explored the opportunities and the diversity that comes from the oceans. I mean, they create, from the photons of the sun, they're creating the foundations of life and have done so for the longest. So there's just so much unexplored opportunity that we have. And as the basic foundations of connective tissue, I think that in this space, especially because it's a salty environment, so it's quite distinct from land plants. That's important, is that seaweed is quite distinct from land plants in its structure. It doesn't have to deal with gravity. It doesn't have to have all this cellulose and lignin in it. And its reaction and metabolism is sort of direct with the cells and the environment itself. So it's really cells, multi-cells in a Petri dish in the ocean, basically. And we've just got such a opportunity to explore. It's something that we just overlooked for so long.
Thank you so much for sharing with us your story and your research today. And it's well on its way to commercialization. It is absolutely fascinating. Thank you very much for your time.